The future of this program is to eradicate slums, not to upgrade, to eradicate those kind of living conditions. So if you are paying 4,000 in a home that is not yours, you are paying your landlord. And then this house, you are paying the same amount of money, slightly less, and it is your home. You are paying to live in it and to own. There should be no argument. Whether you want to use whatever politics you want to use, whether you want to use threats that when you come into power, the government will scrape this, you have to discuss with Kenyans. Because by the time we clear 2027, we will have, I can tell you in the market, I may not have the 200,000 per year as we promised, and so that I can answer your question, but I am very sure I'll be having between maybe 700,000 and 800,000 units. Our target is 1 million in 5 years. You asked me, how come then we are behind? We have fallen short of the numbers of 200,000 units. It's an important question. You understand that there was a snag in the beginning, and there was disruption of court cases. And of course, for us, the program to take off, this has been a lot. I think previously, the program was not streamlined. The construction, the procurement systems, because we must follow the law. And therefore, even to raise enough money, the beginning year, that is 22, 23, we are now in 24, 25. I believe we will accelerate the speed towards achieving 200,000 per year. Along the way, we may be able to recover lost time so that you can act, because we are around 140,000. But the number of units in the pipeline are more than 600,000. Taken off in the procurement. If you look at this week's, last week, Tuesday's advertisement, you'll see we have other advertisements of affordable housing. So every month we are having tenders going out, and it is our local people that are actually building this. There may be one or two, because of course they are open tenders, but we are happy that maybe 80% it is Kenyans that are doing this work. And of course materials, and our young people, the youth who are in our construction sites, over now 160,000 people. Looking at our data, we will be achieving about 300,000 by the time we are doing 200,000. And that's really a basic number, because one unit employs 8 people, from engineer to maybe structural engineer to architect to clerk of works, supervisors, construction managers, artisans, masons, electricians, plumbers, carpenters. All these people are there. And of course, the people who are providing food, catering services, biashara around the area is actually multiplied. May I also say that the factories of cement factories, steel factories have increased in their production. Politics aside, because people will do their politics. Anybody who wants to do cement manufacturing can now know that the market, the demand is very big, very huge. The distributors, and therefore, let me answer the question of investors. And I know, Nancy, I have seen your shows. Good job. I've seen many of your shows, and they are spreaded. You know that you maybe focus a lot on the investors, now focus on this affordable housing, because you could also now be part of our champions. And that's why I'm challenging the media to be part of our champions. The investors are now able to get guarantees from us, from the fund, the Affordable Housing Fund. An investor requires guarantee by way of offtake. If I partner with you, as long as you agree with our designs, our specifications, we give you the land as part of offsetting some of the costs. Because land alone amounts to about 30% of the cost of any house or building. So the 30% is not a benefit to the investor, it's a benefit to the affordable housing program, so that we are able then to competitively lower the price, because the land is our asset. So these are legal documentations will be done. This house hosts the Principal Secretary Land's Office, the Principal Valuer in the country, Chief Valuer. We have the Chief Architect here, the Chief Engineers. All those professionals are here. I am there to oversight. The issues of land, together with the NLC, will obviously be addressed. And Parliament has given us a lot of support and guidelines. Na wewe ukipata, mwingine apate, mwingine apate, land belongs to Kenyans. It's a Kenyan asset. Indeed, if you go to Egypt today, the policy there, they sell land to do infrastructure. Because you have land here in Kenya that has been actually grabbed with a lot of value. Nirudishe hii shamba, tujenge barabara nayo, ama tujenge hospitali. Badala ya mtu moja anachukua shamba, ardhi ya umma ambaye is valued maybe 3 billion shillings. If I give Kenyans treasury 3 billion shillings that have recovered, they will do the job that Kenyans want. They will expand Kenyatta Hospital.
Your Excellency. Hi, how are you?
Your Excellency, and besides circumstances listed.
Yes. What's more in class?
Your Excellency, pleasure.
He is the CEO of our Gachagu University Hospital. Council. Farhan is our head of communications. Our head of health. Yes, she's the chairman of the health committee. That's Zahiba, she's our executive officer. There is that is under Saluti, who wrote to the head of the US. That is Rita Hayes, the famous actress. She was very nice. So that is pretty much the seat of all the diplomatics and presidents. Largest collection of tree literature in the world. Community very close. And I think it was 96 in Egypt, because it was the rule of this mining. And there's a lot of stuff about this mining.
We don't call it a loss, we actually call it and celebrate the work he has done, in all endeavors, not for a particular community, not for a particular country. Okay? We today, as Ismailis, are in 22 countries where we have councils, in over 55 countries where we have people who reside. and we all contribute to the development of the country. And it's only been possible because Shah Karim actually laid the foundation for that. So we want to celebrate his legacy and what is left for us and the world.
A very strong personality with very broad philanthropic footprints in many parts of the world, and even in the most difficult areas, such as Afghanistan, where he set up a hospital that is still running and helping people in a very difficult environment. So we really want to convey that show of solidarity and sympathy to his family and to the entire community. In Kenya, the list is endless. From the education sector to the health sector to the economic sector, to anchoring the freedom of speech through the Nation Media Group. It's a very wide spectrum where he really impacted profoundly on the lives of many people. And his institutions will continue to do the same, even way beyond him, as we look into the future. We also want to take this opportunity, and I speak knowing that we have transitioned from him to the new Imam, the 50th, Prince Rahim, who takes over, and we wish him well, God's grace, courage, and fortitude, so that he can now take up the leadership role with all the blessings that we can offer. But most important, God's blessings are usually supreme. We were together in Doha celebrating the cultural aspects. You know, he liked culture, art. So we are celebrating the new museum in Doha, architectural museum, together. That was a good moment. Then whenever he came to Kenya, I was lucky to have a moment of interacting with him, even in his residence in Muthaiga. And what also was very interesting is I had an opportunity to go to his home in Angoulême in Paris. And what shocked me at that time was the simplicity of his house. You know, there was just one carpet in the middle, and there was a table, and we had tea together. And I was amazed, because in my mind I was imagining perhaps you're going into a very pompous setup, and here was this very simple house where we had some tea together. But more significant was that he liked preserving the antiques, you know, the whole aspect of art and what have you. And I could see that within that house, trying to maintain that place the way it was many years before. So this was the person. In conversations, he was very soft-spoken, but very deep. So I'm sure they say the prince is a chip from the old block. So we shall see more of that as we go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Kenya is also implementing an ambitious restoration program, and through the National Landscape and Restoration Strategy, we aim to grow 15 billion trees, thereby restoring 10.6 million hectares of our land by 2032. We have also initiated the second phase of the land degradation neutrality target setting the LDN TSP 2.0 to restore degraded landscapes and desertification. These aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, particularly SDG number 13 on climate action and SDG number 15 on life on land. And in Kenya, a global recognition as a champion of sustainability and climate action.
When addressing climate change, countries should primarily focus on transition to renewable energy sources, improving energy efficiency, adopting sustainable agricultural practices, and mainly implementing policies that reduce greenhouse gas emissions across all sectors of the economy. Through diplomacy, countries are able to coordinate global response to environmental challenges, ensuring that nations work together to protect the planet for future generations. Diplomacy also helps mediate conflict over resources like water, forests, and fisheries that often transcend national borders by promoting peaceful cooperation. Another role of environmental diplomacy is facilitation of transfer of technology and financial resources from developed countries who often have more resources and advanced technologies for environmental protection to developing countries through capacity building and enable address the challenges.
Last year was a busy year for global environmental governance for the reason that 4 important forums were hosted. New York convened the Summit for the Future in September, where matters environmental and climate also featured. COP16 to the Convention on Biological Diversity was hosted in Cali. Baku in Azerbaijan hosted COP29 to the Framework Convention on Climate Change, and Busan hosted the 5th Intergovernmental Negotiations, INC 5, on global plastic instruments in November. The year concluded with COP16 to the Convention to Combat Desertification in Riyadh. Your Excellency, these meetings made some important progress as far as international environmental governance is concerned, as well as on sustainable development. However, the world did not achieve consensus on issues, and there is need to bridge the gaps in the future meetings. I think most noteworthy in terms of what wasn't achieved is the ambitions that had been set around the new collective quantifiable targets or goals that were intended to raise the base from the 100 billion commitment made in Paris 10 years previous, to raise it to almost $1 trillion. What was committed in Baku, while progressive, is really a drop in the ocean, considering the challenges that we face.
We are at a defining moment in human history where Under Secretary General of the United Nations, the Chair of the University of Nairobi Council, Professor Amkoa. Good morning. It gives me great pleasure to stand before you, choosing the University of Nairobi as the host institution of the first ever granted. And so, once again, I say asante sana kwa kutukumbuka. Ever for humanity to take charge and stem the slide towards an inevitable aspect. As we reflect on how human activities have resulted into environment, humanity has only one home, planet Earth. As we gather here today, in this way, but could be unforgiving if abused. So let us not attain our strategic objectives in the absence of environmental policy. Through this policy, the University of as well as establish links with other like-minded stakeholders.
That has been convened with the following aims. One, to promote public discourse on the key global the state of Eritrea to Kenya, who is also the permanent representative to UNEP and UN Habitat in Eritrea, and the 5th session of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee to develop an international to 12 December 2025 at the UNEP headquarters here in Thereafter, we will have a launch of the ministry's legacy book on self. Then after that, we will proceed to the session on the presentations of the major arm will be from COP16 to the UNCCD, the third one on COP29 to welcome us to this meeting. Professor.
Secretary, State Department of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abraham Singoi.
Institute. So as soon as we get the message from the Chancellor,
PSs, professors, doctors, my colleagues, excellencies,
Just press. Wow. All right. Put our hands together. All right, there you go. There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Guest doesn't take too long out there. Thank you very much. So it's up there.
All eyes on camera.
For Kenya's purpose, our constitution recognizes diplomacy or the foreign aspect as one of the arms or the pillars under the national security architecture. And if you look at Article 240 of the Constitution, it is very specific that it falls within that category. So Cabinet has also corrected an anomaly which has been lingering for a long time, because for some reason the foreign agenda was being regarded as just a normal administrative affair. And now it sits with clarity in accordance with the Constitution where it should have been for a very long time. So I thought this comes to you so that even within the framework of debates, we now fall within the security sector working group for planning purposes. Formally, the Cabinet of Kenya has now approved the sessional paper on diplomacy and given the go-ahead for it to be tabled in Parliament, which will happen next week when Parliament reopens, so that it goes through the first reading, and then it will be available for further conversation and debate by a wider cross-section of the Kenyan people and our partners. This time, we are making it clear that diplomacy is not an exclusive club. We want diplomacy mashinani. We want the people to understand what is our policy across various issues, and we want them to engage so that it is no longer a mystery that diplomats are seen carrying a briefcase into a plane, and then they are seen coming back, and they are assumed that they were just having a cocktail somewhere. Let us share in reality what is all this diplomacy about. One of the things that the Aga Khan was pushing for was to partner with the county government of Nairobi so that they can preserve, protect, and make the city park more friendly the way Karura Forest has been made through partnership with other people. Perhaps as a befitting tribute, as you could have this conversation around the environment, this is something that can be advanced so that we can live on positive ideas that were mooted but were not executed. We still have an opportunity to carry that forward. And perhaps this is a very good moment so that Joe Ageo can help in rallying this message through his media house to galvanize support for this very, very noble cause to improve one of our very, very good parks in Nairobi, make it better, make it user-friendly, give it greater security so that people can walk the way it is when you do walk in Karura Forest. And that is where you pay tribute to the Wangare Maathais of this world and other partners who have really supported that. We also want to see protection of the Ngong forests and other areas, our national park. We want to see in far-flung places the Maragoli Hills rehabilitated in Western Kenya. We sometimes also forget that there are some politicians who may have caused trouble, but in their own way they were interesting. There was Karaoke Chotara. If you went to Naivasha today, you'll not believe that we politicians, as much as we can be rabble-rousers, Karaoke Chotara actually spearheaded the greening of, when you drive down to Naivasha and you see all those trees, he was at the center of planting that. So there, even from politicians, some good things do emerge.
Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, the launch of the book, 60 Years of Kenya's Environmental Diplomacy, is evidence of our accomplishment and dedication to sustainable development. The publication describes our path, pointing out significant events and difficulties while opening the door for other similar initiatives. And therefore, I wish to sincerely thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and to thank you, Your Excellency, for this critical inaugural publication. And we look forward to further publications in the future.
We politicians, as much as we can be rabble-rousers, Karaoke Chotara actually spearheaded the greening of, when you drive down to Naivasha and you see all those trees, he was at the center of planting that. So there, even from politicians, some good things do emerge. Then you can go to an elder like Mulu Mutisia with President Moi, and there was the famous Munyonyoko wa Udongo, the building of gabions and helping to rehabilitate degraded land. There were initiatives that perhaps were ridiculed, even by maybe not exactly social media. It was not as robust then. But some of these initiatives were being ridiculed and so forth, but give it to them. As unschooled as some of them may have been, they were actually conscious that protecting the environment was absolutely essential. And we need to go take a step back and pick up from some of these areas and make sure that we really protect our environment. You will recall that last year, President Ruto hosted, in conjunction with the World Bank, the IDA 21 replenishment conference here in Nairobi, where there were several heads of state, including the current AUC, African Union chairman, the president of Mauritania. Ladies and gentlemen, that effort, that convention was able to rally, which has now become official from the World Bank, an excess of 100 billion US dollars as the IDA 21 replenishment to help support the IDA recipient countries, which are close to 75 or slightly more globally. And this perhaps becomes a very good forum so that the conversations that you come up with can help in enriching the use of those resources so that they are directed to environment-friendly programs in all these 75 countries. I think that is a very, very significant development. And I would really want to urge all of us to see the significance of having a very robust diplomatic initiative and engagement with other countries, because it is through that kind of arrangement that Kenya's leadership, in conjunction with other partners and friendly countries, have able to rally the global community to raise these resources. That is a very significant development.